Hi everyone, welcome to English 102 Week 3 online. I don't know why I just did these jazzy hands, but it felt right. So we're gonna do a quick overview of APA format in this video today and discuss your first group meetings, which are really exciting. This is always kind of my favorite part of the semester. And so the other part of your readings this week include a few videos, which I've included in this PowerPoint, but I won't play because it won't record the sound, but I encourage you to watch those videos because they have really good information and will help kind of further explain what I'm talking about. So let's go ahead and get started. First of all, the assignments you've got for this week include Readings and Discussion Board 3, which you should be pretty familiar with by now. You'll also need to be meeting in your group for the first time this week via Microsoft Teams. So I've posted messages in the channels of your groups. I'm also getting email after this video is posted. And what you'll want to do is just set aside 20 minutes to meet with your group, decide on what roles you're going to fill. So who's going to be your facilitator, who's going to be your reporter, and then who's going to be your archivist. And then what social issue is your group going to focus on. Keep in mind that when you choose your social issue, your group has some leeway in, say your group wants to focus on racism and inequality issues, and you are more interested in something related to healthcare. There is a way to sort of involve those social issues together, so don't feel like you're sacrificing too much. And then lastly, you've got your article critique due on Sunday. So refer back to the resources in our week 2 folder on the article critique. The video from last week also discusses that writing very specifically. So your groups are listed on Blackboard, are also emailed to you and here on the PowerPoint. So get in touch with your group sooner rather than later, and hopefully I will also be able to hop into those meetings with you all this week. I do recommend meeting at a similar time each week. I found that is most successful for my groups moving forward. If you guys can find a time like Mondays at 6 work really well for our group, then make that your meeting time for the next 8 weeks. If you can, be flexible with each other, but also keep an open mind. I want these groups to be a resource for you, to be a help to you, and not to be a hindrance. So if you approach these groups from the perspective of, man, I hate group work, I don't want to do this, I don't like these people, I don't want to be here, then it's gonna be bad. But if you approach your group from the perspective of, maybe I can learn something from these people, then your experience might be a lot more positive. So I'm here to support you in this and to facilitate your work together, but I do expect you all to hold up your end of the bargain, as that's the expectation of my course. So I set up some group pages on Blackboard and also Microsoft Teams channels that I'd encourage you guys to utilize. You'll notice in your group project page on Blackboard, there is a link to a Google Drive folder that's shared with me and your group members so that you guys can work together on different assignments starting next week. You'll notice this is also where your email to your group or your group log is housed. So other than that, please be using Teams to communicate, and there's an app for Teams, so if you're not on your computer, just get in the habit of checking Teams regularly. All right, so I was going to play a quick video overview of APA, but unfortunately the video will not record sound, so I will post this to our course. But in general, APA has sort of 3 parts, and what I will do is pull up the video and just sort of narrate to it. So
this short video is meant to give students who are brand new to APA format some context and basic overview information about using APA format for college papers.
So what this video goes over, and I'm just going to kind of skip ahead, is the general kind of overview, the formatting of your paper. So in general, APA has 3 basic parts. You've got the basic format of your paper, which includes your cover page, your margins, double spacing, the font that you use. And the second is in-text citing, which is where you use citations within your paper. So you'll notice here they're talking about a source called the Homeschool Apostates by Joyce, and they refer to this in a couple different ways, both as a narrative citation and a parenthetical citation. So We'll talk about both of these, but APA covers the overall format, in-text citing, and then the third one is your reference page. So you'll notice here that this reference page, similar to a works cited in MLA, is in alphabetical order, which is useful. And then also you'll notice that the second line of each source is indented to the right. So these are kind of the three pieces of APA. And this video also kind of goes over the specifics of how to write your cover page, the difference between those two in-text citations, and also where you might get more information for doing references. So I'm going to post this video with my update for this week, and make sure that you watch it because it'll definitely answer some questions for you. So kind of going back to the info for references. So as you might have noticed in the example in this video and also on my PowerPoint here, your reference page is kind of dictated by the type of source that you found. So you need to know how to recognize what type of source you have. Is this a book? Is this a journal article? Is it a website? Is it an online journal? Where did I find it? And how do I know? So often when you're sort of finding sources online, it can be difficult to understand what type of source you have. But the good thing about using databases, which is why I'm really pushing you all to use EBSCO, JSTOR, Opposing Viewpoints, is because it will cite for you. Keep your eyes out for anything that says cite, a cite button anywhere in the databases, and it will create a reference page entry for you. The great thing about reference page entries is once you have done this and put this at the end of your essay or whatever piece you're working on, then your in-text citations become much easier. So what you'll notice is I've also linked a website called the Excelsior Owl, which I think is a great resource for you all. So if you open the Owl website, you'll notice that they've got the video that I just showed part of, and then to the left here, they have an APA references section. So you'll notice that they have a list of all the different types of sources you might encounter, and underneath each of these, they'll have an example. Some of them have videos to kind of walk you through it. I really like this website because I think it's really clear once you kind of know where you're looking for this info. So once you've got the reference page entry, the next thing you can do is work on your in-text citations. So other tools you can use to get that reference page how you need it. There's a Microsoft Word template. There's also the sample APA paper that I've linked on our Blackboard course under APA format. So use those resources, all right? I don't expect you to memorize how to cite a book, an article, a website, and a video. I expect you to be able to use the tools at your disposal. So once you've got a reference page entry, I have another video linked here, which I'll send with my update. But once you have that reference page entry, you can get your in-text citation very easily. So your author from your reference page entry should be included in your in-text citation. Those two should match. So once you've created your reference entry with however many authors you have, then that makes talking about the source in your writing much easier. So you'll notice I have this little table here, starting with just one author, which is pretty simple, last name and year. Two authors, not too bad. It's last names with and in the middle. If it's in parentheses though, notice that you'll need an ampersand. That sort of and button, I believe it's the number 7 on most keyboards. If you have 3 or more authors, this is something that you should have seen in your scavenger hunt, but if you don't remember, 3 or more authors uses et al. It's kind of like etc., but it's a way of saying this is the most important author and there's a group of them. The other two situations you might run into is an unknown author. First of all, unknown authors, I don't necessarily think those sources are bad, but you do want to recognize that if you can't find the author, can you at least find something about the organization or who made the site? If you don't have an author, then what's going to come in your in-text citation is whatever comes first in your reference page entry. So again, it all comes down to that references page. If the organization is used as the author, like say the American Red Cross, then you're going to treat their whole name like you would an author's last name. So I know this is kind of a lot of information to throw at you, but the other readings for this week will also go over this in more detail. The last thing I wanted to point out is in-text citations. Once you've gotten your authors and the year, the next thing you want to think about is how are you going to include this in the body of your writing? So you'll notice there are two different ways you can do this. The first one, like this Stein parentheses 2018, is called a narrative citation. So I tend to think of these as story citations, as in you're using the author's name here to sort of write the story of your research. It's in the body of your writing. The other option is to have just this information in parentheses after whatever info you have from the source. This is called a parenthetical citation. It's not necessarily that I need you to know the name of these, but I do want you to recognize the difference. So I would say that narrative citations are a little more complex, and they might show some more comfortability with using citations. So I'd encourage you to try both and just see what works for you. If you're not sure kind of how to talk about sources in your writing, see if you can practice some of these phrases in the article critique that you've got coming up this week. Many of us may have heard this according to an author, but you can also use words like believed or argued or claimed or asserted, stated. You don't always have to say this source talks about. And I want you guys to get kind of more comfortable with joining that academic conversation. So as you're reading these sources, note down interesting phrasing that they use. Note how these sources talk about other sources and see if you can mimic that. If you've heard that phrase, something like, copying is the greatest form of flattery. I should look that up. But the idea is that you can learn from the reading that you're doing. Imitation is the greatest form of flattery. Oscar Wilde said that. I knew that was in my brain somewhere. Anyway, all right. So this was your crash course in APA format. That was fast. There's a lot that I didn't cover in detail, but your readings this week will do so. I really encourage you, watch all the videos, do all the reading, ask questions of your group, and ask questions of me. One last reminder, readings in Discussion Board 3 due Friday. Your first group meeting and group blog number 1 will be due Sunday. There is just one blog post due per group. So just have your facilitator post that. And then next week, I believe it's your reporter's turn. Your article critique is an individual assignment. You don't need your group to accomplish this. And all you're going to do is write 2 to 3 pages sort of evaluating the source and telling me how it's useful, evaluating the publication, all of that jazz. So thank you guys for joining me. I am really excited to pop into your meetings this week and get to know you all a little bit better. Please let me know if you have questions, concerns, or anything I can help with.